Good evening, Anand, first of all, and good evening to my fellow panelists. First of all, it is a pleasure and an honor to be sharing the panel with so many luminaries who are experts, from ambassadors to military generals and to policy makers. So, and I include you as expert as well. So, whatever
No,
I
मैं तो
say,
कुछ नहीं sir.
please.
I'm as lay as a common person just wants to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We
Yes.
want this entity dismembered. That's all.
Yes, yeah. But in many ways, I think this is perhaps one of the most important debates we're having, given the fact that Pahalgam happened. But we're having it after 10 days, so kudos to you, and I'll explain to you why. I don't think this is anymore about Pakistan. That our Indian armed forces are well nigh capable of countering with the mightiest of forces. The most important discussion we're having today is what else if it isn't about Pakistan? And please allow me a couple of minutes because I think this is very important. Now, we know that Pakistan is a rogue terror state. There is absolutely no doubt about it. You have these leaders, and this is not just this week. For years, they've been saying this, accepting this, admitting this, that they are a rogue terrorist state and they've trained terrorists. Imran Khan said it on the floor of the Pakistan Assembly. People have agreed to it. So that's not news. Now, this is a state that refused to accept its dead during Kargil. If you remember, it refused during the Kargil war even to admit that Pakistani armed forces were involved in it.
Yeah.
It was only in Parvez Musharraf's biography that he admitted in 2005 that 425 Pakistani armed personnel were actually killed. And in 2010, it was Nawaz Sharif who accepted that yes, Pakistan refused to accept the dead bodies. We buried them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the treacherous nature of a country that refuses to accept its martyrs? Number two, it is refusing to accept its living. Right now, there are hundreds of Pakistanis who are stuck on the Atari border because Pakistan will not accept them.
Yeah.
But the fact is not about Pakistan refusing to accept its dead or its living. The point here is, and here I come to the nitty-gritty, that Indians are accepting Pakistanis. And here, if I may, I've already said this, we are looking at a hyena outside our home, but not seeing the elephant in the room. And I want to talk about the next minute about it because I agree with whatever the good general said, except the fact when he says that the terrain is helping the terrorists. I apologize, but I'm at variance out here. It is not the terrain, it is the traitors who are helping the terrorists. Let me draw an analogy. Back in the 80s, the terrain of Punjab is very different from the terrain of Kashmir. But we saw, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, we saw how day after day, scores of terrorists who were trained in Pakistan infiltrated the border, the Punjab-Pakistan border, not the Kashmir border. That itself tells you that they were being helped by traitors here. Now, right now, there are 4 Indian states that share a border with Pakistan: Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab, and Kashmir. Why is it that such massacres are happening only in Kashmir? The simple reason is, in the 80s, it was the traitors in Punjab who were helping the infiltration. Right now, they are the traitors in Kashmir. So it's not the terrain that helps them. I mean, it might to some extent. But the fact of the matter is, it is Indians who help them. So in the 80s, the Khalistani terrorists were able to come not through Kashmir but through Punjab because they were being helped by Indians. And right now, the terrorists are coming through Kashmir. So we have to take care of the internal threat much more than the external. And lastly, and I apologize again because I'm at variance out here again with the good general when he says 90% of the problem doesn't exist. I'm sorry. Suddenly the problem you will see facing you right in the face when you have a terrorist, indigenous terrorist killed in Kashmir. Why else would you have lakhs of Kashmiris pouring on for the funeral to eulogize the terrorist Burhan Wani? Why else would you have tens of thousands of ordinary Kashmiris who we believe have reformed themselves pouring on for the funerals of Nasrallah and terrorist Yahya? So this problem will never end until the state takes a decision. That is what I mean. Out here, when you have Pakistan to be dealt with, our armed forces are the supreme powers who will take a decision. But as far as internal threat, our politicians have to be frank, recognize the elephant in the room. You have to restore the demography of Kashmir. You even possibly have to look at border areas being called as Disturbed Areas Act being brought in, or something like the ethnic integration policy that Singapore has. Yeah. If you don't do it, I'm afraid you're just pushing things under the carpet.
Right. Okay, here's where I am at variance with you, Dr. Ranganathan. 2016 and 2025, there are two different scenarios. In 2016, if they came out on the streets for Burhan Wani, in 2025, they came out on the streets in favor of the Hindus who were massacred there. That's what we saw in Jammu and Kashmir. So there is a change on ground. Yes, that number exists, that there are traitors within, they need to be identified and punished, but there is a sea change in the mindset of the people. The moment there was open communication, it was not one-way traffic as far as the communication is concerned. People have seen the integration and the value of staying with Bharat, and I think that is being appreciated. The economic penury on the other side is the other part where I am a little bit in variance with you is this entire continuum, the thought continuum which is there. There are radicals. The issue is not the people on the streets. It's the people who are trying to preach inside these, who are sitting on the mimbar. And Muhammad Arif Khan Sahab had a very sane point to say that only 4% of the Muslims in Bharat go to the madrasas, but these are the 4% who eventually go and occupy the mimbars and then brainwash the remaining 96%. So that needs to be changed, and that has not been curtailed. And that's where I think the problem is. Internally, we have to deal with it, but externally, we have to also ensure that there is a deterrent, that somebody sitting on the other side doesn't think of coming to this side. If they don't want another Pakistan on the east, they have to ensure that this is dismantled in Bangladesh before it becomes operational like it's in Pakistan now.
No doubt about it. But here, if I may, I want to take a minute about something that's not been discussed over the last half an hour, which is that you're absolutely right that Pakistan is being handled. Pakistan, the puppet, is being handled by the ventriloquist, that is China. China holds all the strings. Now, the question is that we are somehow able to handle Pakistan very well. But is it news that China has traditionally always backed our enemies, and specifically Pakistan? It is not news. In fact, in 2002, 2003, China, even earlier than that, China backed Kargil, Pakistan in Kargil. China backed Pakistan when it ran havoc as far as 12 terror attacks in 2000, 2004. What have we done against China? Let me give you an example. This is the problem where our armed forces have a clear-cut policy and direction, which is completely lacking in our political parties, cutting across political parties and lines. Let me give you two examples. In 2003, 2004, we had a trade surplus with China. But by the end of UPA era 2014, we had a trade deficit lasting 3,900%. This was all during the time when China was supporting Pakistan. Now from 40 billion trade deficit in 2014 to now 110 billion trade deficit. It has increased by 175%. And in the meantime, China continues to help Pakistan. China has conducted Galwan. China has wrecked the world economy, killed millions through COVID. China, somehow we are not paying China in the same currency as we are paying Pakistan. And I think unless we have a clear focus of our politicians, I'm afraid Pakistan will continue to garner help from China, and we won't be able to do much about it.
Okay.